Good morning, everyone. My name is Sean Ferguson, Associate Dean at the Asia School of Business. Welcome to our MBA for Working Professionals webinar on financial aid. This session is about financial aid, and we'll give you a little bit of background about that, but we're also going to cover the program because in order to kind of appropriate evaluate the economic pursuit of this program, is not just about the cost, it's also about the relative value. And so today I'll also be joined by Juliana Roth, our Deputy Director of the MBA for Working Professionals program. I think in Asia, there are no two greater evangelists for the role of a working professional MBA program. We both have 15 years of experience launching and repositioning MBA programs for working professionals across the globe. Both of us originated in the U.S. Juliana worked at Emory, which is a top 25 U.S. business school, and I worked at Rice University, another top 25 U.S. business school. And then both our working professional programs there were in that premium tier of programs. And so we've tried to bring that kind of experience here to Asia. You know, we've seen firsthand the transformational nature of the experience of an MBA for working professionals. And these programs are really designed for high potential folk who are looking to further accelerate their career progression and growth. So the Asia School of Business is a product of a vision, you know, that really originated in 1998 post-financial crisis. For those of you guys who know Tan Sri Zedi, former governor of the Central Bank of Malaysia, after the financial crisis, she had set in motion a series of actions that helped elevate the educational playing field here in Malaysia to attract and develop world-class talent in the region. In 2003, she launched the ECLIF Executive Education, Leadership and Governance Center. And this was intended to, you know, mandate kind of leadership and corporate governance best practices to, you know, protect the Malaysian financial institutions from issues that, you know, were a result of the 1998 financial crisis. And then her grand dream was for a fully, you know, comprehensive business school. And in 2015, that's when she established the MOU with MIT Sloan to launch the Asia School of Business. You know, and this kind of talks about our timeline. I won't walk all through it, but we took on our first class in 2016. We've just moved into our new building in 2020. And in 2019, we launched our first class of working professionals who will be graduating this spring and summer. And so there's been a lot of progress here. And I think it's an exciting story, and we're clearly on the ascent up as a school. One of the things that, you know, we are, you know, while these have been challenging times because of COVID, we think Asia is very uniquely positioned to move to the next level. And so, you know, we've done a lot of research related to like how COVID is going to impact the post-economic environment in this region. And, you know, what we see is that Asia, because it's been a strategic and proactive leader in managing COVID-19, it's going to, you know, pretty much all the economic, you know, predictors and forecasters have said Asia is going to come out of this first and fastest. You know, and so, you know, we think that's going to bode well for our student body. You know, if you look at like, there's two charts here. The one is a consumer view of COVID-19, a consumer sentiment ratio, and then there's a executive corporate sentiment ratio as far as the forward-looking outlook in the region. And what you see is that confidence from the consumers is off the charts. So if you look at the top chart, China, India, Indonesia, the optimistic pessimistic ratio means that for every one pessimistic person in China, there's 8.7 optimistic people. In Indonesia, it's 5. In India, it's 4.6. I think India's situation might be changing a little bit just because of the recent developments. But I think overall, growth is on the horizon here in a way that's not in other parts of the world. Also, if you look at the corporate outlook in the chart on the bottom, the positivity amongst executives about the post-COVID opportunities are off the charts here. And we think this creates a great environment for MBA graduates or, for people in working professionals program to really capitalize on opportunities that are emerging in this rapidly evolving environment. There's a lot of research out there that's talking about, how this is going to favor MBAs. And because it's not clear what the opportunities are, or that the environment is so rapidly evolving, it's going to favor MBAs and generalists. And so as government restrictions, lift, that won't be the only thing that ushers in normalcy. Digital models are going to accelerate the change in the business, and the solutions aren't clear. So there's a need for people who can be innovators, that kind of top tier talent who can manage, innovate, create, and apply. And that's what we think MBAs are. Also, just because the situation is so rapidly evolving, the way consumers are considering value is changing. And so loyalty is under shock. So it's creating a lot of opportunities for companies to maybe, make up ground in what you would call a down cycle. Also, the lifestyles of individuals are changing, right? And so, as we feel firsthand here in Malaysia with more MCOs or more restrictions and SOPs, and as we've respected the COVID environment more than I would say we have in the US, home activities are becoming more prominent, right? And so this creates a whole set of market opportunities that we think MBAs are well positioned to be a part of. When it comes to managing in this environment, we think ASB is the school of choice, and we ultimately don't feel anybody is better positioned to respond to the changing environment. And we think about our approach to COVID in three buckets. First, onboarding and student care. Just to give you like a kind of recap of where we were, for us, we always put student safety first, and we have a high level commitment to that. This past year in the fall, we did dual delivery, in-person and hybrid, and we did that for a good portion of the year. But then more recently, at the beginning of the year, as restrictions lifted, we were able to do more classes in person for our students in Malaysia. And then, for our students who are outside of Malaysia, both working professional and full-time, they could still participate in hybrid. Academically, when we look at things, while moving online did not mean we were just taking a PowerPoint and putting it into Zoom. Our faculty was really focused on delivering a solution for folks that was still world-class. So the learning outcomes that we deliver were all the same. Our MIT faculty have been committed to online delivery since the fall and summer of 2020 last year. And if we looked at the classroom engagement, in some ways it has increased. And one of the things that's allowed for that, we have breakout rooms. People, more people feel comfortable if they feel comfortable asking questions in the chat or something like that, as opposed to physically raising your hand or verbalizing in person. It's created an opportunity for more people to engage. And, when it comes to our support from a career standpoint, with the executive coaching and things that we do, we've been able to use the technology to now provide more access. In the past, sometimes people couldn't participate as much, and we couldn't do things outside of the class hours. Now we can do things outside of the classroom hours. That's giving greater access to our students. Action learning and learning in action. So in the WP program, Jules will talk about this later. As much, it won't be impacted by the COVID environment. The way we've designed learning in action for the WP, you'll still be able to get intensive engagement virtually. For some of our projects related to practicums and things of that nature in the MIT Sloan, where we can find opportunities to provide travel, we will. For the MIT immersion piece, it's always going to be a priority. And one of the things that we've worked out with MIT Sloan is that for up to 3 years after graduation, if we can't enter the US or such, students can still visit and participate. And so that's where we stand here. We feel like we're well positioned because we're a young school. We're super agile, and I think we can be the most responsive to this changing environment. So, one of the things that we also talk about is that, this is just, there's a huge need for talent, that can create, manage, and innovate and apply in this part of the world. And so we really think our MBA does this better than any program in the region. We have, two formats. So I'm not sure, usually, even if we have a WP or a full-time program, we usually have people in the audience. And the way you can think about this chart and the two programs is that the full-time MBA program is really for career changers, people who want to engage in a significant career shift. So maybe they were an engineer who was miscast as someone who's been miscast as an engineer, and they want to move into strategy or marketing, right? Or they were in the petroleum industry and now they want to move to the tech industry, right? And so those are the people who fit into the full-time bucket. And our programs are designed for the full-time program is designed to better support that with action learning projects with different corporate partners, and then also more career-related activities. For working professionals, these are people who are generally happy with their career, they like their company, they have the appropriate level of advocacy in the program, and then but they're maybe looking to make a pivot or broaden so that they can continue to ascend in their company or their industry. And so we'll talk mostly about the Working Professionals program. Jules will talk about a lot of the features later on. We're a super diverse and international business school, and I think that's our biggest value add here. 70% of our students are international, 45% are female from all across the world. We've got 44 countries represented and 240 students overall. So it's a big program. And I think that international element is what really differentiates us from other schools in the region. The other thing that's important is our faculty is super international. And so I think about 85% of our faculty are international, and they've been academically prepared at the world's best schools. 44% of them were academically trained at top 10 times QS Times or QS global ranking schools. And so and that's we believe is market leading in the region. About 83% of our faculty are from top 150 Times or QS higher education universities. And these are just a few images. Anela is a professor in our central banking program. She's worked in the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. Malati is from Malaysia, but was trained at UNC Chapel Hill, one of the top 20 schools in the United States. Renato got his PhD. He's from Brazil, but got his PhD from MIT. And Ellie's from the Philippines. And he got his PhD from Stanford. So we have world-class faculty, but we also have relevance to Asia Pacific and the emerging world that we think differentiates us. And so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jules so she can talk a little bit more about some of the program particulars.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate it. Would you be able to advance the slide?
Yep.
Thank you so much. So as Sean was talking about the differences in our programs, the MBA for Working Professionals is designed as a 22-month format. So what this translates into being is that the summer before students arrive, they take a quant prep course, which is required just because many people have not seen quantitative work from textbook perspective for at least 5-10 years plus. So this is just to make certain that everybody's ready. And then you would start the program with the full-time students as well in August, and it would be 20 months from that point forward. And you would also graduate at the same time. We've got what we call learning in action, which Sean alluded to earlier, and I will share with you more in depth. But these are where you work and apply your learning directly to your current employer. We have practicums, and the 3 practicums are quite important because while there is great advantage of applying what you learned to your company, several of our students have not actually been with different employers other than the current employer. And we want to make certain that you have a chance and an opportunity to see how things are actually done in other employers. So we take the entire class to a company, we divide them in teams, and they work on intense projects for 1 week, where you will come up with a problem statement, you'll come up with a hypothesis, you'll test the hypothesis, and then you'll present to senior management. And so it was designed that we would have 1 in Malaysia, 1 within Asian, and then 1 could be wherever we found the best project. With COVID right now, they may be a mixture of more Malaysia-based, but certainly our goal is to get you into Asia if it's possible as well. Our faculty come from 50% are MIT Sloan and about 50% are ASB residential faculty. And this is critical to ensure that you get a multiple lens perspective, because a lot of our Sloan faculty are coming from the US, even though they may have international backgrounds. And a lot of the ASB faculty, even though they're trained globally, do live and research in Asia. And not all problems can be solved with the same lens. So a US solution doesn't always work for Asia, and an Asian solution doesn't always work for other regions. So this is the goal, to mix so that you can get multiple lenses and multiple perspectives on how you tackle your problems within your work. Just like the full-time program, the working professionals spend 4 weeks at MIT Sloan, though they can divide this between 2 weeks in year 1 and 2 weeks in year 2, if it's easier for your family and your work. And we also put extreme emphasis on professional development. So throughout the program, you'll take a series of workshops and professional development, and we couple this with executive coaching, which we strongly encourage everybody to take advantage of. The executive coaches that our students use are the same executive coaches that the international companies pay our eClif team to come and coach their senior management. And if I could ask you to advance, Sean? Okay, so we had mentioned the learning in action. The way the learning in action is designed is you learn a series of tools in your class. And the advantage of this is that you actually apply it to your job. Now, of course, in a normal program, you would learn in the classroom and then you would figure it out on your own. This is more systematic and it's more aligned to help you succeed and implement bigger things. So you work with our faculty and you also work with a series of business coaches. Our business coaches are all actually MIT alums that are now based in Malaysia. Almost all of them, if not all, are previous consultants. And we even have 1 or 2 that are still current consultants that help walk you through the system to help you have a bigger impact on your company. And then if I can have Sean advance, there we go. And then this are the practicums that we talked about. Our class, our MBA Working Professional class of 21 that's just about to graduate. Their first project was at Volvo. And they worked with Jim Womack, who is one of the leaders in lean production. In fact, he's world famous in it. And so one of the key things, if I can have Sean advance, there you go, is that we very much focus on experiential learning. So there's a lot to be gained from a textbook, but there's even more to be gained from getting your hands on it and working with it and applying. So we do this not only in our learning and action courses, but in your classroom courses, as well as for team building, as well as applying the learning throughout your entire journey. So this is the model that literally our learning and action was based upon. And this is a model that's actually used throughout the entire school and all of our classes as well. If I could have you advance. And this is just a glance at our professional development. How we built the professional development was actually the same methodology that we used when we looked at the curriculum as a whole. So you've heard of the terms soft skills and hard skills. However, there's nothing actually soft about the skills that get you ahead between middle management and senior management. And they're the most critical skills you need in managing people and learning critical thinking and emotional maturity and how to navigate problems and when things come at you. And the same with the hard skills. The hard skills imply that you learn it and then it's done, which isn't actually true because most of the technical skills that you learn, you have to sharpen over time or you still lose them or they become dumb. And this is why we frame the framework of smart skills and sharp skills. And you'll hear this used throughout our program continuously because we look at building both sets of skills as you go through the program, both in academic and as in professional development and across learning in action and action learning. And if I can, there we go. A glance at the curriculum. So this is a general overview. We've got the way that it is set up. You've got a core set of classes that everyone must take. And through the core classes, then you can take additional electives. You're required to take 4 electives. However, we strongly encourage you to take more if your time permits. And in fact, our process is that you have a minimum that you're required to meet, but we try to make everything available to you so that you can take as much as your time permits. And if you don't have time to complete the electives while you're in the program, you can come back as an alum and audit the classes as well. And there's not additional tuition charge. You just have to pay for your materials. So what Sean is showing right here is a typical residency week. So prior to COVID, this is what the schedule looked like, is you would start on Saturday and go through the following Sunday. It would be in a very intense 9 days on campus. When you went away, you weren't done. You still had some classes that you have work that is due on Saturdays and then on Tuesday nights and check-ins along the way. But for most of the time, this was pretty predictable every 6 weeks. Now, with COVID, we've had to make some changes to this. So I expect that the first residency will look like the previous slide, but when we work with the MIT faculty, right now, as of this term, we don't expect the MIT faculty will be able to fly in. So while they're unable to fly in for your October and December residency, we expect it to be delivered on Zoom in the evening and look like this. So it gets broken into 2 weeks. Now, this does not mean that you can take a full day, work all day at work, and then do classes at night, because you simply won't have the bandwidth to be able to do the homework and the rigorous coursework that's required. However, what we do suggest is that just like the other where you would take the entire week off, that you take a week off, but you spread it over the course of 2 weeks. So say 4 hours a day you would take off to focus in on your studies and be prepared for your class in the evening. But we put these in the evening instead of the morning so that you can pick exactly what part of the day you set aside. So if there's a critical meeting Tuesday morning, you can be in it. If there's a critical meeting Thursday afternoon, you can arrange to be in it. So it's more about giving you control as much as possible, because we are very much aware that you are working professionals and aware that you have extreme demands on your time. So we try to make it as navigable as possible. And if I could get you to advance. So as Sean mentioned, this is not just PowerPoints that people talk over. Our professors are on screen. They're very actively engaged. They cold call students as well. They ask you for volunteers to submit your answers and have conversations with you as if you were in the classroom. They still write on the screen as if you were on a blackboard or a whiteboard within the classroom. But in addition to that, you also have the methodology that you have chats, and you also have academic associates that are on these calls. So you can actually be more engaged than you normally would be, because normally you had to wait to be called on. There's only so many people that can be called on at a time. But in a chat, you can ask questions as well. And if you don't get the questions answered during the class, then most of the time the faculty follow up afterwards with the answers to your questions. So if I could get you to flip to the next slide. And so this is a look at the minimum time out of the office. And I stress the word minimum, okay? So this assumes that you pursue a general track of electives where you pick from a plethora of what we have to offer. And in year one is very strict on the dates that you must be out of work. In year two, it gets a little easier because with the elective choices, you can pick when you pick electives. You will still have some core courses that you absolutely must attend in person, but for the most part, you can control your schedule a little bit more in year two than you can in year one. And if you wish to take the finance and analytics program that we offer, because we offer a concentration in finance and analytics, it will require a little bit more time out of the office, but it is manageable and you can work it into your schedule if it's something of interest to you. In addition to this, working professionals have the option of taking 2 international treks that are offered in the full-time program. So for the full-time students, they are required, but for working professionals, we know that you can't necessarily get the time out of work. So if it is of interest to you and you wish to go to the country and meet with a lot of business execs and learn how business is done on the ground in that country, then you're invited to go and it's still included as part of your tuition. If I could get you to advance to the next slide. So I do want to speak very briefly about the new campus. So we just moved into our academic campus. It opened in January of 20, and it is huge and has an extensive amount of space. It was designed by MIT architects in collaboration with architects from Malaysia. And this is more details of the pictures. So you'll see that there's tiered classrooms, there's flat classrooms, there's auditorium, there's loads of space. And then also the residential building, which you're looking at right now, that just opened in 2019 in December. So it's still relatively new. There are 4 blocks of housing, and the working professionals, when they come to campus, stay in Block C, which is our hotel setup. And then, of course, while you're here, then you can go work in the sports center. and still get out and engage with the community. You don't just have to stay in your room the whole time. But the room is nice. You get a private bedroom, a private bath, a desk, and a shared kitchen between yourself and one other person. If I could get you to flip to the next slide.
So Jules, there's a question. Are WP
Yep.
expected to stay in the residency during study?
Okay, so we are strongly going to answer that yes. And the reason that we say that is because you end up while you're here really working from about 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night. Because once you get out of classes, you're still doing teamwork. You're still doing stuff like going to dinner together. And there's still a lot of deliverables that you get done together with your team. Now, with that said, I'm not going to knock on your door at midnight to verify that you're in your room. So I've had other students push back, especially ones that have children under the age of 1. And so what we say is try it. And what we found is that what happens is they will often give the kids to their parents, and them and their husband will then move into the room and stay with us on campus because it's a nice break and they're able to actually focus less on kids. And if you will, take the week off from kids and focus on school or on work. So it really ends up being what's best for you. I have other people that literally will stay on campus the whole time, and some that will take, say, Wednesday night if they don't have any homework or team assignments, and they'll go home on Wednesday night, but they'll be there the rest of the time. But it is an integral part of the program. If you plan to show up for class and leave, you're going to lose a lot of the program because you'll lose a lot of the bonding with your classmates. And honestly, not being able to do a team assignment because you had to go home is not a valid excuse. So I rolled in this slide because I know that Sean showed you the slide from before, which is of all of our students. This is very much for working professionals, okay? So our students come mostly from the region. They're more Malaysian based, especially because of COVID right now and the limited amount of travel. But we do include students from all over. We've got students from 6 different countries right now that are currently in the program between our 2 classes. And when the program started, we actually had Malaysian students that came in from Mexico because they were working on site in Mexico. So you can literally do this program from anywhere in the world. You just have to be willing to travel up to like once every 6 weeks. And below is a list of companies that our students are currently from. And we're always looking to expand this list. If I could get you to flip to the next slide. And this is, if you remember the slide that Sean showed you of all of our alums across the board, this is currently a map. Our alumni office asked our students to plot on the map where they're currently working, and that's what this is. So this is good through our class of 2020, but it does not include our class of 21 and our class of 22 where they happen to be from. And I think at that note, it is time to pass back to Sean again. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much, Jules. So there's multiple pieces to the value equation here. You know, the MIT faculty, the TREC, the action learning, the professional coaching is one thing. But the other thing is like, will this investment pay off? And, you know, from past crisis, you know, what we've seen is that MBAs in Asia will be a relative overperformer. If you look at the bars on the charts here, those bars represent the last global kind of economic crisis, 2001. That was the dot-com boom, turned into a bust, and post-Enron timeframe. Then there was also in 2008 the financial crisis. And if you see, when you look at the charts, what you see is that Asia has been the most resilient. So over the last 20 or so years, salaries have progressed in Asia at such a rate where they're on par with other top global MBA programs. And so we think our value proposition is strong in this part of the world. And if you look at the chart on the right, this is a alumni salary progression post business school. And what you see in the top, the gray bar, that's the difference between Asia and other international business schools. And so when we say international, that's like non-US business schools outside of Asia. And then the red bar, the red line is US business schools, right? And so, and what you see is that the salary percent difference between Asia and the US and the international are 27 and 42%. So this is the place to be, you know, just from a macro perspective. But when you look even deeper into the ASB data, it's even more compelling. And so this is some of the work that Hamid and I have done when it comes to, you know, seeing what the return on investment is relative to our alums. So keep in mind we're a young school, but in December we did a survey of our alums, our first 2 classes of alums, and the results were phenomenal. And so, there's 2 things that are driving the strong salary growth for the region in general, right? So if you look at the chart, the grouping on the top, that's for working professionals, and the grouping on the bottom for full-time professionals, full-time MBA alum. What you'll see is that Asia is the most, has had the most rapid salary progression, over the last 5 and 10 years. And so it's second to none. When you look at like the working professional ranking, so this data comes from the EMBA rankings, 7 out of the top 10 working professional programs are in Asia. The thing that I think people in this audience should feel good about is that salary progression for working professionals is faster than full-time MBA graduates. And one of the reasons for that is that what hurts full-time MBA graduates is that they take 2 years out of the workforce. But because working professional students are able to continue their career without disruption, they're able to accumulate faster progression, and they don't incur a cost of momentum, right? And so, and when we did our alumni comparison to the results, so the red bars are for top 100 Financial Times schools, right? The black bar is actually ASB alums. And what we found for our ASB alums is that the average annual salary increase of our first 2 classes has been 16%. And that compares very well to developing Asia, advanced economies in Asia like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Japan and Korea. And so we feel our value proposition is really strong, and we're seeing that rewarded in the marketplace. Also, 80% of our students have been promoted. 80% of our alums have been promoted since graduation. 25% have been promoted twice. And then usually the industry rule of thumb is that 3 years after graduation, about 50% of a class gets promoted. So we're well ahead of that, despite not having a class that had graduated 3 years at the time of this survey. And so another thing that has made the evidence compelling is when we look at the results. I've kind of talked about the top 2 boxes, but if you look at the results in the third box, 67% of our WP students in the first class have had a promotion or title change or an expansion of responsibilities. 31% of the students in our second class who have started the program this year have also had promotion, title change, or expansion of responsibilities. And so the return on investment has been strong and even faster than what you would see in our full-time MBA program. The results, it's, for our international WP students, they've been promoted and seen success. Raphael, before COVID, he was flying here he's a German national who works in Japan, who was flying into the program to participate. He got a promotion within his first year. And then Nick Aisha, working at Sapura Energy, one of Malaysia's own. She was promoted from general manager of group cash management to head of group treasury and investor relations. So, we're seeing consistent examples of promotion. Myself and the career office are talking with people on how to negotiate for titles and new and salary and giving recommendations. And so it's really yielded transformational results for the participants. But the issue I think most of you are here for is how do we make this investment happen? And the investment in the WP program, we see it as a partnership between the individual, us as a school, the Asia School of Business, and in some cases, the corporate partners. Maybe about half of our students, or maybe a third to half of our students, are sponsored by corporate partners. And our, what we really did in our first year, we didn't have financial aid for the first cohort. But after the first year, seeing the kind of impact that we were having, what we really wanted to do is provide more access to the self-sponsored market who need support. Because as part of our emerging market mandate, one of the things we want to do is, be accessible to the masses. And so we created a robust approach to financial aid where individual applicants are eligible for need-based financial aid up to about 60% of tuition. So for Malaysians, in which tuition is 265,000 ringgit, you are eligible for financial aid up to 170,000. For international students who are whose tuition is about 365,000, you're eligible for financial aid up to 210,000. And so how do we do that? Individual financial aid packages include two components: COVID discounts, and then or scholarships, and then deferred payment, right? Deferred payment, what that is interest-free. What it basically is an interest-free loan in which the period starts 6 months after the repayment period starts 6 months after graduation, and the term length can be up to 6 years. And so these are the two levers that we use to deliver the financial aid that I talked about in the first bullet point. Additionally, our corporate department team can work with your organization to potentially see if there's a sponsorship package that we can get for you. And these sponsorship packages can range from 50,000 to full tuition. So this is the opportunity here. And how do we do this? And so what the WP financial aid process is, it's a need-based post-admit process, right? And so what we do is that after you're accepted to the program, then you can apply for financial aid, right? And what I like to tell people is that, in the financial aid process, about maybe half of our students apply for need-based financial aid. And then of that half, probably about 75% receive some award, right? And in order to be eligible for that award, you have to go through this process here. So we need a couple of things from you, because the goal, everyone would like a full scholarship. So when people ask us full scholarship, we have no full scholarships in the WP program. And that's why we came up with this financial aid option, because we do see it as a partner kind of delivery here. And so as part of the need process, what we have individuals in order to be eligible for our financial aid, we also have to see some proof of effort to apply for financial aid externally. There are local providers like Maybank or OCB that provide education-specific loans. What you have to do is submit proof of application, whether it's approved or declined. What we recommend is that people in their initial application ask for 50,000 to 75,000 ringgit for that loan. Then the other piece is that everyone is required to go through a corporate sponsorship consultation. And there's two elements to sponsorship and support of the program. There's financial support, there's time off from work, all right? And one of the things that we found is that sometimes, we have a pretty robust corporate development team, and sometimes everyone isn't aware of all the corporate opportunities within their company. And so the sponsorship opportunities within their company. And so our corporate sponsorship consultation with our corporate development team helps you figure out, okay, how do I message this? How do I talk about time off from work? How do I frame my argument and my justification for doing this? Or if they've been a sponsor in the past. Then the next part of the process is submitting key documentation to demonstrate needs. So pay slips, bank statements, EPFs, retirement accounts, and then credit reports, so we can assess your credit worthiness. And what we do is we have an evaluation committee that looks at all these things, and then what they do after that is, after they get all this information, that's how they determine the awards that we talk about on the next page. Then we approve or we reject your application. We let you know the amount. And so the financial aid application will be open once you receive your admissions decision. Once an applicant applies, you should receive a decision within 3 weeks of submitting your financial aid application. And so we're still working through this process. Sometimes it can be laggy because maybe the application from Maybank or OCB takes forever to get done, or maybe you're missing a document and we need some more information. And so, but generally we try, after the submission of the form, we try to get this decision to you within 3 weeks of submitting your application. And so before I move on to some of the other things related to the admissions process, I'm going to go to some of the questions we received earlier. Is there any scholarship? So unfortunately, someone asked, is there any scholarship? And generally, we have the need-based scholarship through this process, or need-based discounts, and then there are no full scholarships at all. But we did have, for the March 15th round, we did have 2 merit-based scholarships of 40%, right? And so you would have to have applied in the March round in order to be eligible for those 40% merit-based scholarships. So I think some of the other questions, the scholarship and aid for African students. For the working professional program, we don't have any, this is the need-based process is what we provide to the prospects here. So it's not distinguished for Africans or not. It's fine. I think this financial aid available. I would like to get a scholarship. And so I think we've kind of, all the questions have been, is there financial aid available? And I think we've kind of covered that with, yes, there is financial aid available. If there are any questions specific to financial aid now that wasn't answered, happy to take those in the chat, or you can just take your camera off and ask the question or speak into the mic now. Any questions? So again, I think, our financial aid process is geared towards creating access. And I think we recognize that salary levels vary substantially throughout the region. I think, we have people whose salaries are less than, can be, as low as, 5,000 ringgit per month. And, with that, we realize that it's not economically feasible. So this is some really top candidates who I think would be great. We thought would be great applicants. We wanted to create a package for these kind of individuals to participate in the program. No, so someone, Rod, he said, does financial aid in this context mean deferred payment only? No, there are 2 components to financial aid package: COVID-19 scholarship/discounts and deferred payment, right? So deferred payment is like the loan option, but the scholarships is a discount that comes off the price of tuition. All right, Rod? Other questions? So if people have any other questions, feel free to schedule a call with us to answer. Honestly, it's really, every case is specific, right? And so it's kind of hard to give much more information than what we give here, because someone might be making less but has this much salary or has access to loans. And so the case is quite situational. And so what I would encourage is for you to schedule a call with us. You can go on our website and schedule a call with the admissions team. And if you have questions, we can kind of help navigate you through there. And if the team, can't answer your questions, they'll circle back with me and give me the information, and we can circle back with you with another response. And with that, we'll talk briefly about the admissions process. And so just, the base requirements: a bachelor's degree is required for both programs with a minimum of 2 years of work experience. If you didn't go to Malaysian university or a university where English is the medium of instruction, you'll have to demonstrate proof of English language proficiency. That'll be via the TOEFL or IELTS or something along those lines. Our last deadline for the program is June 16th, 2021. And so, but we encourage you to apply earlier, particularly if financial aid is a strong consideration for you. We do have a rolling evaluations of the admissions process. So say if you submit your application now, in a couple of weeks, we have an evaluation period, and we can get you out a decision probably quicker than we could, earlier than we would if you just waited to the 16th deadline. So it's always to your advantage, particularly for financial aid, if you want to apply earlier than the deadline. For the full-time program, we're done for this year. That said, if you have an exceptional case, we always consider superstar exceptional cases, but the next round will next cycle will start in October, November next year. All right. Well, it'll start in August, and the first deadline will be late October, early November. These are the components of the application that we're looking for: a resume, video statement, cover letter, recommendations, academic transcripts and performance, an essay, and the GRE GMAT is optional for all of our programs. And then what we do is we evaluate all these elements, and then based on our assessment of your quality on these 7 elements, we go to an interview. We offer an interview. And so with that, we have a cadre of events. And so if you want to learn more about the events we have available, feel free to scan this QR code, come to our events. We've got a lot of good things on the horizon. You can also download a brochure. We've got a few minutes left. Any more questions from the audience?
No, Sean, I'm Praveen here, but thanks a lot for your presentation. Thanks, Juliana. So I'll definitely visit the website to acquire more information, but it was very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it when people speak to us, especially in this virtual world.
Sure.
All right, anyone else?
Hi, Sean. I just want to check with you. Is that possible for us to have a screenshot of this PowerPoint slide? Because actually I came in quite late. I missed the event.
Yeah, so I think we post the video afterwards, and you can watch the video again, all right?
All right, thanks.
Anyone else? All right, well, if that's the case, we'll let you get back to work or have a little bit breather before your next Zoom meeting, and have a great evening, guys, and afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John and Juliana.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.